Hello, I'm Paweł, as you can see, and today I will talk about trade-offs. And first let me talk a little bit about myself. I'm senior software engineer at Ocado here, with more than 10 years of experience in software engineering. I'm passionate about high-level aspects of software engineering, like architecture, domain-driven design, maintainability, and so on. And lately, I'm also really passionate about dynamic between product and engineering. So that's why I'm standing here. For 1 year, I'm attending to these meetups, sitting there at the audience. And at some point, I thought that maybe I will stand here one day. So here I am. And I must tell you that I'm totally out of my comfort zone standing here. This is my first time standing here as a speaker. Most of the time when I'm on the stage, I look like this, singing karaoke at our company party. So my heart will go on and so on. This is my comfort zone, speaking technical product topics, not so much. And today I'm gonna talk about trade-offs. Something that I was having my eye on for a while now. And maybe let's start with the definition of a trade-off. So according to Cambridge Dictionary, it's a situation in which the achieving of something you want involves the loss of something else which is also desirable, but less so. Or sometimes we say that you can't eat your cake and have it, right? So that's something that we usually say. One of a common example of a trade-off is a iron triangle, or sometimes called the triple constraint, which consists of it's a triangle of scope, time, and cost. And the resultant of this triangle is a quality in the middle. So as you probably know, if you want to deliver a product and you want to increase the scope, usually you need to either increase the time of the delivery or increase the cost of delivery. If you want to decrease time, then you need to increase the cost or decrease scope, and so on and so on. If you want to change one of the vertices without modifying other vertices, then your quality will suffer. This is the guy in the middle. The dynamic between the scope and the quality. This is the topic that I will talk about today, because there are many combinations of those changes of this triangle. But today I will focus on the dependency between the scope and the quality in particular, because from engineering perspective, this is something that is usually there is a battle between the scope and the quality. So let's take a look at it. So the way I like to see it is that it's look like an iceberg, where on top of the iceberg, the part that we can see are the features. So let's say that we wanted to have all those scope, time, and cost, and we delivered all the features. So on the surface, it looks like we delivered on time, and everything is functional. But below the surface, at the bottom, there's a big pile of technical debt, and it can involve like unexpected bugs, scaling problems maybe, or increased maintenance cost in the future. And the fact is that trade-offs are unavoidable. We can try to minimize the amount of trade-offs we need to make, but at some point we will still face the trade-offs. Like even today, standing at this stage required a trade-off from my side, because I was in Zakopane in the hot tub, but I had to get off early and get here to Wrocław. So it was a trade-off to stand here even today. And the fact is that even though trade-offs are unavoidable, we need to make sure that we make the conscious trade-offs, right? So in this case, if we want to make conscious quality scope trade-off, there is some components that are crucial to make this trade-off conscious, and I think those are the communication and trust. And I know it sounds like a buzzword. It's a lot of soft skill talking from an engineer, but I will tell you about my experiences on when this communication and trust did work, and it was actually in place, and where it failed, and what were the consequences of that. So let's start with the story. Let me tell you about the project that I worked in at some point. And it was an Android project where there were multiple applications on top of the Android TV framework. And all of that was packed into the vendor operating system that we worked on. And the setup was more or less like this. So we had like 8 developers, two QAs, a team leader, and the product manager. And when I joined this project, I was really excited, because I thought like I will be watching TV all day, and there's gonna be a job of my life. And as you can imagine, it didn't work like that. Maybe if our source code looked like this, then it would be really a dream job. But in fact, the source code looked more like this. And why it matters that the source code doesn't look like this, but instead it looked like this. So let's take a look at what are the consequences of having messy code or technical debt. As the time goes on, if your technical debt increases, then your development pace decreases, right? So that's pretty much the dependency between the technical debt and development pace in general. And we were somewhere here. So it didn't look great. And as a result, most of the time we spent was to do the bug fixing, not doing actual product development. So we couldn't call ourselves software engineers, more like full-time bug fixers. And one of the main pain points that we had was our architectural flow. So most of our applications consist from application layer, which was written in Java, and native layer, which was written in C++. I will try not to get into many technical details, but in general, most of the applications had two layers, and each of these layers had its own database, even though the databases represented the same set of data, pretty much. So it was a duplication of source of truth, basically. So it wasn't a good thing to introduce in the architecture. As you can imagine, in many cases, those two databases got out of sync, which resulted in many problems. And the fact is that when I joined this project, it was really weird to me that someone came up with this idea. And when I asked people why it was like this, they were like, it has been always like this. Like we got this project from other outsourcing company. Right now it's too difficult to solve. So we didn't bother. We just didn't bother refactoring it. We just keep on bug fixing, right? But I couldn't deal with that. I was a young developer, really eager. So I thought like I will do the refactoring. I will fix this problem. And I really tried to communicate it to our manager that we should do it, to our managers, but they were really skeptical about it because the TVs were already in customers' homes. So it was really risky to do this kind of changes. But I talked to our architect, and we had a silent agreement that I will do the refactoring silently without our project manager knowing about it. And just when we had some kind of POC, we will tell them that, okay, we got it and it seems to be working, so take it or leave it, right? And after 3 weeks of refactoring, 2 weeks of testing and bug fixing, I was able to get rid of one of the databases. And the bug reports dropped like by half, I guess. And it was really great success. So from now on, we were able to call ourselves software engineers again, not bug fixers anymore. And the chart looked more like this. So we kind of reverted the negative trend when it comes to technical debt, and the development pace increased a little bit. Unfortunately, it was a little bit too late already, because the product maintenance consumed too much money. There was no money to develop the product anymore. So from the initial setup that looked like this, eventually it looked like this, then like this, and eventually the project got closed anyway. So what failed? And there might have been many reasons for that. Maybe the developers that originally developed the applications were not that good, but let's assume that it wasn't the case. And let's say that the developers actually communicated that there is a huge pile of technical debt, we need to do the refactoring and so on. So let's say that they did communicate. Maybe they didn't communicate, so no one could have known that there is an underlying problem, right? If they communicated, then either someone listened to them and said, like, if someone listened to them, then they would say, like, okay, yeah, let's do the refactoring and so on. But maybe engineers didn't communicate the problem, or nobody listened. So for me, it was a problem of either communication or the trust. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be like this. So let me tell you a different story about another project that I was in. And it was a proof of concept that we developed from scratch. The application looked like this, that there was a technician that went in field to fix some kind of hardware. And sometimes the technician didn't have all the knowledge to fix the problem in field. So instead of getting to get some help, they could just call the expert that was somewhere in the office, get the proper instructions and so on, and the technician could solve the problem in field with the hardware. And we prepared the application for having a video call between the technician and the expert. There was like some kind of a hardware involved in that, and the technology we used was the peer-to-peer, which is a decentralized network architecture where devices are connected directly with each other. So there's no like additional server involved in that. And since it was proof of concept, it allowed us to reduce initial cost of delivering the proof of concept and so on. Yeah. And the setup of the project looked like this. So it was really, really small project. We were just 2 developers, team leader, product manager, and the QA. And quite soon we were able to get this working. So the POC, we were able to show the POC to the investors. Some people got interested in that, so we had small success in that. But coming with the investors, there came additional challenges. Investors required for this setup to work with multiple people. So not only one-to-one, but one-to-many. Maybe there could be must have been more technicians, maybe more experts. And the original technology that we picked, the peer-to-peer, it wasn't really good for the new requirements, because in this setup it's quite easy to maintain one-to-one connection. But if there were three people involved, it required more and more connections. So with 4 people, it got really, really complicated. The application was really not really efficient, and we realized that our chart looked a little bit like this. That because we did take this technical shortcut of going with the peer-to-peer solution, if we tried to implement it for one-to-many connection, it would probably be infinite bug fixing all over the place. So similar to the previous project. So there was a trade-off to be done. Which one do we sacrifice? So do we increase the cost, or do we sacrifice the quality, and still try to bug fix the problem and stick to the solution that we chose in the first place? So we communicated this kind of problem and what are the consequences, what is the cost that would need to be involved to fix this problem. It would require complete refactoring of the technology that we picked, the architecture and so on. And we were lucky because our product manager really listened to us, and he had the trust in us that we made the right call to actually not stick to the solution that we chose originally, but to shift away from the peer-to-peer one. So the trade-off was that we had to increase cost of the solution. And as a result, we completely reworked the architecture so that there was a centralized server which took care of the communication and so on, which allowed really this solution to scale really nicely for one-to-many connection and so on. So we were able to reverse the negative trend on time before the costs of maintenance really overloaded the budget. So in this case, the resource distribution was the other way around because of the refactoring. The bug fixing was not the problem, and we could have spent much more money on product development. So as a result, this project grew really, really well. And from the initial setup, it grew and grew and grew. Yeah, and I think that communication and trust really made the difference here, because we communicated the problem that we're gonna face in the future. Our product manager really listened to us, and he trusted our judgment. So even though it was it's not always convenient to put on more and more money, but they knew that this is the right call to do. So finally, the conclusion. I really believe that open communication and mutual trust are key components to making conscious trade-offs. I know it's not a rocket science. Maybe most of you already were aware of that, but I think it's a really nice thing to highlight, and especially that I was able to give you some real-life examples where it worked well and where it didn't work well. So I hope that it will be something somehow useful for you. Yeah, and yeah, I guess that's the main point that I wanted to make. That trust and communication will really get your project further. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry for the messy beginning.
Not so fast. Okay. Don't worry, the question is not so hard. Maybe it is. Okay. Your first story was about lack of trust and a lack of communication. I can imagine a lack of communication, but tell me about lack of trust. What does it mean from your perspective? How does it look from the daily routines between engineers and product people?
Thanks. That's a really interesting question, and I think we can look at from both ways. So let's say that engineers actually communicate the problem, and they communicate, but there is no one listening on the other side. Maybe someone takes the decision and say like, okay, we know that there is a technical shortcuts that we are taking, but we will clean it up at some point. Like not now. And then people communicate, and at some point they just lose trust and just stop communicating the problems from the technical perspective. So I think maybe that was the problem here, that they communicated and someone said like, okay, we will do it tomorrow, and the tomorrow never comes. So maybe that's the one situation in which the trust is lost. And from the other side, it can also be the loss of trust if engineers are too eager and like too perfectionist, that they want to always keep in the endless loop of refactoring, right? Because there's always some things that you can improve from technical perspective, but there should be some kind of a justification for that. So I think, yeah, this is an example where a loss of trust may be from the product managers towards engineers that, yeah, they really prefer to do the endless refactoring without bringing the actual product value.
Cool. Okay. One more question. Okay, so we know that good communication, it's a super important skill, and building and trust is super important between engineering and product people. Imagine the perfect product manager. What that person has more than super communicating skill and empathy to build a trust. What else? help me to be a better product manager?
I guess market and product awareness, obviously. Yeah, but when it comes to dynamic between engineering and the product, I think that those are two core values, right? At least from my perspective, the main difference between the good and the bad product managers that I work with was the either communication or the trust, and it really made the difference. Yeah.
Yes, my question will kind of continue your question. I'm a little bit puzzled because you said trust and you show us the money. What's the connection here?
It's always about the money, right? Like when you are developing the product, eventually it's always about the money. So when it comes to trust, if your engineering team, for example, they ask you about something that either we need to increase the quality or reduce the scope and so on, it always gets down to the money because it requires investing some kind of a resources, right? Either it's development time or like infrastructure money and so on. So the connection between is that to put out the money, someone that gives the money needs to trust in the team that we really must do it. Otherwise, we will fail in the long run. So I think that's the main difference. That if we don't trust our engineers or anyone else that is communicating, we need to do some kind of a changes, do some kind of an investment that okay, we will invest now, but it will pay off in the long run. Then it gets down to the money. Either you will just keep on wasting the money and the project will fail, or you invest some money now and the project will continue. So I think that's the association between those. Thanks for this question.
Thank you for your presentation. My question will connect to that previous one as well. I'm a software engineer myself, and I think that the issue with us as an engineering industry is the problem that we didn't figure out how to show the numbers to the business, and business talks numbers. So how, from your experience, what do you think? I don't know the answer. So what do you think, what would be the number that could be useful to present to product to convince them that the tech debt is so high that it can result in like closing the project, right, and so on. So what would be what metrics would you propose?
Yeah, I was thinking about it for a long time really, and I don't think there is a universal metric to that. That's why trust is even more important, right? Because when it comes to my the second example that I showed to you, I was convinced about the fact that we need to do the technological shift because I had experience from previous projects, and our product manager had trust in me, in my judgment because of my experience. So even though I was not able to give them specific examples, okay, maybe in this specific example, it was easier to show what are the consequences of trying to maintain for connections, peer-to-peer connections, and so on. So he could actually see the issues with that with his own eyes. But typically, it's really difficult and complex problem, and yeah, I don't think that there is an easy answer to that because there are different kinds of technological debt. Some are easier to explain to people and so on. So yeah, I believe that to answer this question, it would require a dedicated presentation, more technical one, and I was actually considering making one. So maybe it will be a follow-up presentation at some point, either a product pick or tech bites, which by the way we have tomorrow. Yeah. So yeah. Unfortunately, I cannot give you an answer to that. I think if I would be able, I would make a lot of money with this kind of solution that have a universal metric for technical debt, but I would definitely love to have one.
Well, would you like to say that metrics, dashboards are needed where we have no trust in the team, between the team and manager or product manager, or?
Yeah, I think it would help. Yeah, I think if it would help if there is a suspicious that there is some kind of a refactoring that doesn't have to be done, then some kind of a metrics would help to make the business decision that we need to give some money to developers' time to do some kind of refactors or whatever is needed to clean up the technical mess that was done.
Yeah, hey, that was exactly almost the question I was going to ask you, but again, I would like to outline for myself the parameters metrics about the technical debt in order to for the entire team to to trade off that now it's a high time to solve it, not early, not later. And the second question would be about maybe how you approach, maybe as a developer lead, for example, how would you approach a new PM on the project in order to build this trust, to to convince PM when there is no experience with that person, he's a newcomer or you're a newcomer in the team.
Okay, let me think about the second question for a while. Can you rephrase the first question, please?
The first question was about the parameters metrics.
Okay, so when is the time that we say like enough is enough, right?
Yeah. Because sometimes, for example, PM may suppose that guys, we need to develop these and these features first, but you realize that it's high time to do it, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. So let's rewind a little bit. So more or less, you're asking, how do we know? How do we know that we are somewhere here, right? Yeah. I think it's also a tough one, and it gets down to metrics as well. If assuming that it's not visible from the bugs perspective, right? Because sometimes you have so many bugs that you are actually able to see in the Jira dashboard, let's say that how many time is consumed by bug fixing and so on, and how much time we spend on actually developing new features and so on. So I think more or less you could see it like this. Like here we could see probably in this case from Jira that most of the time that developers consume are bug fixing. So maybe that's like low hanging fruit metrics. And when it comes to second question, yeah, that's a tough one. So the question was how to create the trust between the product manager and the engineering team. I think it's always building slowly. Like in every relation between humans, it's really difficult to build trust when you just met someone, right? Regardless whether it's like someone that is supposed to be your girlfriend or boyfriend or your teammate and so on, it always takes time. I think it always gets time, and it takes some kind of a common casualties, common experiences that you experience together. So I don't think there are any shortcuts when it comes to building trust other than experiencing some kind of ups and downs together and see how both of you react to that, right? Because when everything is going okay, it's no big deal. But when things go sideways, that's when the trust is actually tested, and I think that's the biggest test for whether there is a trust between product managers and the engineering, when there are bad times and not when there are good times.
Okay, so my question is slightly different because I didn't catch that. Of course, I know you were like a hero, you did the whole refactoring, but what were or if there were any practices that you applied to minimize this tech debt later? Like some lessons learned that you gather from that, not only about the trust and communication, but actual developer practices or whole management practices to minimize this tech debt, or it was the same, just we fixed and now the work is going on.
I understood how important architecture is, I guess, and I think both of these experiences only made me realize it even more, and that's why I pay a lot of attention to architecture, because if you make some kind of shortcuts, like some kind of cutting corners in terms of architecture, it's sometimes not easy to spot in the short term, but in the long run, it really is painful. If architecture decisions are incorrect, then it really is a nightmare in the long run. So that's why I think it's the biggest lesson learned for me, that how important even small architectural decisions are. If they go sideways, the project can go sideways completely. So I think that would be the main takeaway that I would personally take from both of these experiences. Thanks.
Hi. So one question about, because I totally agree that the communication and trust is important. So when you have it, it's hugely helpful. Yeah? But trust is something like, it's hard to grasp what is actually the trust. Yeah. So it's usually comes down to things like, just keep your promises, not over-promise something you don't know, or at least say you are not sure. Yeah. So this is the practices approach of using communication to build trust. Yeah?
100%.
But what do you think about what competences what is the role of competence in the whole area? Yeah, because I do believe that if someone has higher experience in some area, then it's like much easier to communicate something reasonable and things like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what's your approach to the competences and building competences to do it, or is it matter from your perspective, or what's your thinking?
So do I get it right? So your question is what is the key competence to show that we are trustfully, or?
Even wider question, like, does it, from your point of view, does it matter? Yeah? And if yes, then what is these things that matter most?
I think when we say about communication and trust, there is a little guy in the middle, which I would say listening and understanding. So I think that's some kind of an underlying competence of both of these. So to me, the product managers that I enjoy working with the most is that when I speak to them, I can see them listening, but also understanding what I'm saying, asking questions like, they can always nod their heads like, totally. But sometimes they seem to be listening, but it seems like they do not understand. Maybe they don't want to say that they don't understand something. So I think also to say that, okay, you lost me. Can you explain it in a simpler words and so on? From the product manager perspective, obviously sometimes engineers tend to get into technical details too deeply. So it's from engineers' perspective, it always is crucial to explain technical stuff in a non-technical fashion as much as possible, obviously. So I would say that from engineers' perspective, they should be able to talk with the more non-technical language, and from the product manager's perspective, to listen, understand. If they don't understand, tell about it to engineers. Just work it out to understand that you are actually on the same page and not just nodding your heads. Not sure if that answers your question. If not, sorry.
Technical competences in both sides?
Yeah, that definitely helps. Yeah, if obviously from engineering perspective, technical competences are obvious. If product manager is able to have some kind of a technical competences, it's perfect. It's perfect, but it's not really a necessity, I would say, because I work with many product managers which were not technical, but still I was able to lay out the problems with a non-technical fashion, and they were smart guys and understood what is the problem.
Paweł, are you going to stay with us?
Definitely.
Guys, so we will have a chance to chase Paweł more later. Ladies and gentlemen, Paweł Krzywodajc.